All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jenny Pop. I'm the Associate Dean of the Honors College, and it's my pleasure to be with you here tonight to talk a little bit about study abroad and research. I'm joined by Dr. Chelsea Hodge, who is the person in the Honors College you want to get to know if you are interested in study abroad and research. And what we would like to do tonight is tell you a little bit about why we think study abroad and research can be a really important part of your undergraduate education. And we encourage you to give us some questions, use our chat. Chelsea and I will take turns looking at the chat to try to answer questions for you. And then we'll have some time at the end of our presentation tonight for you to ask additional questions for us. So with that, I'm going to get started unless I have some preliminary questions. Okay, well, what is study abroad? Now, it might seem like a really crazy time to be talking about study abroad. We're in COVID and we really can't go much further down the street than across around the world, right? But the good news is it looks like we're nearing the end of the pandemic. At least we should have availability of a lot of vaccines, and we are seeing borders open again, and we're hoping that students will have the opportunity to study abroad, those of you coming in as new freshmen in the fall, sometime before you graduate. So if you're not familiar with what study abroad is, it's an opportunity to go somewhere outside the United States and have an experience that provides academic credit. Look at Ian in this picture. He was an electrical engineer who had the opportunity to study at a very prominent school in Australia. And in his free time, he got to snorkel in the Barrier Reef. You can see him there with a bunch of the fish. So why would you do it? Well, you could ask Davis here. He was a chemistry major and he participated in one of the Honors College study abroad programs that we call Honors Passport. And he went to Sicily. And some of the reasons that we talk about why you should study abroad is it can help you develop intercultural communication skills and navigate other cultures and work with people of different backgrounds. Even if you never expect to work outside of the United States or live outside the United States, we have lots of people from other places that come to us. So going to experience another culture will help you navigate dealing with people that are different from your own background. If you're interested in languages, I, for example, was a French minor. It was great to go someplace where I could study my French and get improved in there. Oftentimes, study abroad will offer new opportunities for you and new challenges, things that you wouldn't have experienced at home. But those challenges are the types of things that help us grow and may put us on a completely different path that we hadn't thought about before that was really right for us. And of course, even though we are very focused on academics, we want you to have fun when you're abroad as you experience a new place in the world. How long will you be gone? Well, we could ask Dean Kuhn here. That lady in the gray shirt who is speaking is the dean of the Honors College. And a couple of years ago, along with Dr. Kim Sexton, who is the lady standing next to her, who is an art historian, they led students along the Camino in France and Spain. And if you look very carefully from the right-hand side, the third person over, you're going to see Dr. Hodge. She got to participate in that trip, and she helped with the education. And she can tell you herself, she's a very accomplished flutist, and she helped provide some of the music that was important to the area of which they were studying. That program went on for a couple of weeks at the end of a spring semester. So you can go abroad for just a couple of weeks. You can go for an entire summer. You can go for an academic semester, spring or fall, or you can even study abroad for an entire year. Which one should you do? It all depends on what your goals are. And we in the Honors College are here to help you figure that out. What kind of experiences can you have? Well, going abroad doesn't mean the same thing for all types of experiences. You can have what we call highly guided projects, which is like what we just said with Dean Kuhn and Dr. Hodge in the Camino. You can go more independently. We have sent students abroad to countries to work with government officials or community organizations to do specific research and study projects. Or you might go with what we call a third party, that we'll talk about here in a minute, a third party provider, where you might be the only one from University of Arkansas going to that country and to that location at the time. Your experience might be traditional in the classroom. A lot of students go to study languages, and they'll be in the classroom with students from that country learning that language. Or it may be more travel based, like the Honors College Passport programs are, where you travel around a region and learn something about that region. Some of them may be what we call hands-on learning, and these are some of my favorite. Service learning, for example, is an opportunity for you to go and apply your academic skills to help a community. And we see an example right here on this page where U of A students who were in the nursing program went to a village in Ghana, and they worked with the village elder, the gentleman on the left there, to help teach wound care, to help reduce the amount of infections that were happening when people got hurt in the village. So lots and lots of different ways that you can experience a study abroad. Now, what do we offer at U of A? This is a lot going on this slide, but they generally fall into a number of categories. The first one is called U of A faculty led. That means that a faculty member at University of Arkansas will actually go with you to another place and teach you something related to that area. If you look on the right-hand side, Dr. Hodge has provided for us a list of some of those things you can do. You can shadow in clinics, medical clinics in Thailand. You can experience the theater sector in London. You can study human and animal interactions in New Zealand, and so on. And when you look at that list, you see that the places in the world you can go and the things that you can study are all very different. We send in the summer alone roughly 45 to 50 different faculty-led study abroad programs outside of COVID times, of course, where you have lots of different opportunities for experience. A very special kind of faculty-led program is what we call the Honors Passport. And those are study abroad opportunities that we in the Honors College provide. We've gone to the Camino, as we said, in Spain and France. We've been to Peru. We've been to Sicily, like that picture you saw. We've been to Austria and the Czech Republic. And next year, maybe some of you will be able to join Dr. Kim Sexton, who you saw in that one picture, and another faculty member, and go to Japan. So there's lots of ways to participate with the Honors College in study abroad. The University of Arkansas is also very lucky that we actually have another campus. We call it a U of A campus because it's part of our system that actually exists in Rome. And in Rome, you can study lots of different things. The obvious ones that we do a lot there are for art and design and Italian. But if you're a business major or an ag major, there are also other opportunities that you can do at the U of A Rome Center. We have what we call exchange programs. That's when we have an agreement with another university somewhere else in the world where they send 5 students to U of A or whatever number, and we get to send 5 students there. And the beauty of the exchange program is that your tuition rate, regardless of where you're going around the world, if you are on exchange, you are only paying U of A rates, which can be a really good deal unless as compared to having to enroll as an international student in one of these schools. And the last thing we have is what we call external providers. And these are companies that specialize in providing study abroad opportunities all over the world. And we can help you explore them to see what might be a good fit for you. Other things that you want to think about. Maybe study abroad wasn't on your radar at all. This wasn't something you were thinking about. And it may be a bit daunting to think about going away for an entire year at a time. What you might want to do is start with a short-term program, one of those 2 weeks programs, something led by a faculty member to get your feet wet and see if this is something that interests you. And particularly if you are a fellow and your fellowship can help provide the financial backing for this. Maybe your first summer you do a 2-week program with a faculty member. The next year you take a semester abroad, and some might even go again for another semester. You can go to anywhere in the world to study a language, and we think that's really great if you can go to Spain to learn Spanish or Italy to learn Italian. But you can go anywhere in the world and still study in English. So don't feel like you have to know a different language to go somewhere. And there are programs relevant to people of all majors. Let's take Megan, who's in this photo. She was a political science major. She went down to Argentina to study, and this is a great picture of her at Patagonia. So it doesn't matter what your major is, we can help you find a program that's right for you. All right, so this sounds like a good idea. What should I do next? Well, the Honors College Futures Hub is here to help you plan. We have 4 individuals that work in the hub, including Dr. Hodge. And Dr. Hodge is probably your first go-to person. She has years and years of experience in guiding students to help them figure out where to go and when to go for study abroad. We also partner very closely with the Office of Study Abroad. They provide their own info sessions, and they have advisors that help students in each college. And those advisors specialize in knowing what an arts and science student needs versus a business student versus an engineer. So between the Honors College and the Office of Study Abroad, we can help. Now, one of the things that's also very unique and very special to the Honors College is that we provide workshops that help you plan to send in a grant application to help pay for this experience. We are one of the few universities in the nation that has extensive funding, thanks to a charitable gift from the Walton Family Foundation, that allows us to help students pay for part of their study abroad experience. We look at what we call eligible costs of you to participate in this experience. Things like, well, how much tuition do you have to pay for the classes? What is your airfare? What is your room and board going to be in this other country? And there may be some additional expenses that we help cover, and we add them all up. And you can be eligible for a grant or a scholarship, if you want to call it that, that covers 35 to 40% of those costs. And we have a lot of those scholarships. We give between research and study abroad funding in non-COVID years, of course, about $1.2 million a year. That's a lot of money that we like to spend on students to be able to go abroad and learn. You do not need to be participating in one of our faculty-led programs. You don't need to go to the Rome Center. We want you to find the fit abroad that's right for you. As long as you can convince us that this is a good experience that's going to help you with your future, either in completing your academic program and doing your honors research, or in something that's going to be good for your next step, whether that be graduate school or professional school or a job, we will likely give you funding. We also have those applications available multiple times during the year. And Dr. Hodge and others provide, as I said, workshops multiple times per year to help you understand what we're looking for in our applications to help you be successful when you apply. And the good news is there's funding beyond the Honors College. A lot of the individual undergraduate colleges have money that they set aside for study abroad, as well as the Office of Study Abroad also offers scholarships. So we work together to try to provide you with some funding to help you do a unique experience that's going to help set you apart from others as you move forward in your academic program. So that's all I have to say today about study abroad with a quick overview. And unless Dr. Hodge has other questions for me, I will turn it over to her and let her talk about our research.
All right, thanks, Dr. Pop. Hi, everyone. I'm Chelsea Hodge. I'm the Director of Grants and Research Innovation for the Honors College. And I'm really pleased today to talk to you about honors research. So as you may have heard by now, research is a required part of your honors degree. So to graduate with honors from the university, you will complete an honors research project. Dr. Pop, could you go to the next slide? So even though research is required, I genuinely believe that research is one of the most important, substantial things you can do as an undergraduate student to help set you apart from other students who are going to be applying for the same things you are. Whether you plan to go to medical school, graduate school, law school, or to just get a great job after you graduate from college, then having a research experience is going to really help you be competitive for those programs. There are a ton of benefits when it comes to doing research. It's such a unique experience, and as I'll talk about more in just a second, it's tailored to your field. So you're developing unique skills, impressive experiences that are specific to your academic area and the direction that you want to go. Many professional schools, especially medical schools, actually ask you to detail your research experiences on your application. So for those students who are thinking about medical school, research is almost not an option. You need to do research to be competitive to get into those programs. But it can also be a springboard for even more great experiences that you would do as an undergrad. Conferences, getting funding for your research, publishing, winning national awards, doing something called an REU, a research experience at university, which means you go to another university during the summer and you do research with a faculty member at that other university. That's most common in the hard sciences. And if you, no matter what you want to do in the long term, if you're applying to grad school, med school, you'll eventually be applying for study abroad programs, for grants, for scholarships. All of those things are going to require you to have a letter of recommendation from faculty members. And faculty that you have in class can write you excellent letters, but nothing compares to the relationship you build with the professor who will be your research mentor. That professor guides you through your entire research experience. They get to know you and your academic skills and aptitudes at a much more in-depth level than just faculty who have you in class. So it's tough to overstate the importance of that mentor-mentee relationship and how that professor helps you be successful and competitive in a lot of different ways. Next slide, please. So a couple of things before I dive into the details. As I mentioned, research is tailored to your academic field. This is not a one-size-fits-all opportunity. What a student in mechanical engineering, anthropology, and music do for their research are going to look radically different. So in the previous slide, you saw a student in mechanical engineering in a mechanical engineering lab. What you see here is a student in biological anthropology who's doing research on teeth. So she's actually scanning the teeth in a skull. Two very different research projects. But even beyond how it's tailored to your field, you choose your topic and the direction that you want to take your research. So you can choose a research project that's going to help propel you the direction that you want to go. So thinking about your long-term goals, what kind of research project is going to best prepare you, make you as competitive as possible for what you want to do after graduation. As I mentioned, you're guided through this experience by a research mentor. So this is advantageous to you for what I talked about, right? The relationship you build with them, the support that they offer you. But I also want to reassure you that you don't just automatically become a brilliant researcher just because you're an honor student. You become a brilliant researcher because your mentor helps you. So they help you take, your big ideas, your kind of nebulous thoughts, and turn them into a focused, substantial research project. And then they help train you into how you will do research in your field. I'll talk about that more in just a second. So I say all that because I don't want you to think that when you do research, you're just going to be an island unto yourself with no help. That professor helps you every step of the way. Many of our departments on campus offer a research class called Research Methods or something like that you will take as a junior, and that helps you start your research. So they teach you what research looks like in your academic field. They help you develop a topic. They help you find a mentor. So you get a ton of support to really start that process. And research is absolutely a big project. I'm not going to lie to you. It's one of the biggest undertakings that you'll have as an undergraduate student, but it's broken up into small, achievable steps. For most students, you start the research in earnest your junior year, and then it's spread out over multiple semesters. This allows you to work on it in small increments, right? So as you're learning more, figuring out what research is all about, so that you can achieve this really, impressive project, but you're not, putting all of that time and effort into one semester, but spread out into something that's much more manageable. And as we'll talk about, the Honors College offers a lot of resources to help you succeed. So just like your mentor helps you throughout this whole process, we have staff and resources in the Honors College to help you be successful as well. Next slide, please. So the most fundamental question that we want to ask is, what is research? At its most basic, research contributes something new and original to your field. For most students, this means you're going to do a traditional academic research project. This is where you ask a question, right? You are trying to figure out something that hasn't been figured out before, or contribute new ideas or new support or new arguments to an existing project. Then you're going to collect data related to that question. Data can look really different depending on what you're studying. We'll look at that. Then you analyze that data in order to answer your question in an original way. And that ultimately is your thesis. That is your research. That's what you are contributing. Some students are going to do creative projects or experiential theses. So a creative project might look like an honors recital for a music major, a collection of short stories for a creative writing major, a gallery showing for a student in studio art. Sometimes you have options. I was actually a music performance major here as an undergrad. I could have done an honors recital, but I instead chose to do a traditional research project. I wrote a thesis because I knew that I wanted to go on to graduate school in an academic field. I ended up doing my graduate work in history. So because I knew that that was my long-term goal, I figured out that having a more traditional thesis would best benefit me, help make me competitive for grad schools, for funding for grad school and things like that. But if my intention was to go on to study performance in graduate school, to become a band director, then probably doing a creative project, an honors recital, would have been what best benefited me. So that's kind of what I mean, how you kind of shape this experience to be what's going to most help you down the line. Now, an experiential thesis is usually an internship. So our students in the Walton College of Business, or in the College of Education and Health Professions, or our Bumpers College of Agriculture, Food, and Life Sciences can do an experiential thesis, so that you do an internship and then you have like a reflective piece on that. Most students, though, are going to do this traditional research project. Next slide, please. So talking again about that thesis mentor, what did they do? They supervise your honors thesis from beginning to end. So when you ask a professor to be your mentor and they say yes, then they're going to set the guidelines for your thesis. So they set the expectations of how you will complete research. What kind of data will you collect? How will you collect it? How will you analyze it? They help you set deadlines. They provide feedback throughout the process. If you're doing research, say in a lab, they're going to train you on how to do that lab research. If you're preparing like a survey instrument or a set of interview questions, they're going to help you do that to make sure that you are developing a survey or an interview that's going to elicit the information that you need for your project. They ultimately approve the final product. If your thesis mentor is good with your project, that means you've got a good project. So they're at the end of the day, when you defend your thesis, when you submit it, you're going to do that with your mentor's approval. So sometimes students are really nervous about the thesis. They don't know, how long is it going to be? How long will it be? What will I do? A lot of those questions will be answered once you have a thesis mentor. So again, I just want to stress to you all that we're not expecting you to be expert researchers right from the get-go, right? This is why you have a mentor, why you take courses like research methods that I mentioned, so that we can teach you these things. Okay, next slide, please. So I mentioned that research involves collecting data. And what I've provided here is some examples of what I mean by data. When we think of data, or at least I think of like research in a lab or maybe some statistics, some economic data. And that absolutely could be the case depending on what you're studying. If you're in the natural sciences or in many fields of engineering, you often do your research by joining a faculty member's research lab. So all of those faculty are doing research. We're a research university. All of our professors are performing research at a very high level. Professors with labs have great big projects with graduate students and postdocs who work with them, and they will take on honors undergrads just like you all to work in their lab as well. So that usually means that you have your individual project, what you are working on in the lab, but that project contributes to your professor's much larger project in some way. And this really allows students access to a level of research that would normally be reserved for graduate students. I'll say again, if you're thinking about medical school, having that lab-based research experience is going to be very important for that. But you also might do participant studies if you are in psychology, communication disorders, nursing. You might do field work. So the student you see here is in animal science, and she's out there working with cattle. You might interview people, send out surveys. You might examine voting records. In my graduate work in history, I worked a whole lot in archives, or I worked with primary sources, letters, meeting notes, publications, newspapers. You might analyze artwork, go to a museum to collect that data. You might analyze a literary work if you were an English major. This is just a sample of the type of data you might use in your research. But I'm showing it to you to demonstrate how different research can look just depending on what it is you're studying. I think when you understand what data looks like for your field, that helps you understand how you do research. Okay, next slide, please. So this is a very basic overview of the thesis timeline. And the timeline will look really different depending on what you study. Some colleges, maybe you do certain things your junior year, maybe you do them your senior year, but in general, you can expect your freshman year is a year for exploration. You're taking classes, you're meeting faculty, you're figuring out what it is about the field of study you've chosen that you're passionate about. Every single discipline that we offer is massive, whether you're choosing history or biology or animal science. When you ultimately come up with a thesis topic, it's going to be the most narrow, tiniest little sliver of the discipline you're in. So that freshman year, we want you to learn more about your discipline. Start narrowing down your interests. Start thinking about big topics that you're excited about. Then your sophomore year, we want you to start thinking about who might become your mentor. So meeting with faculty, talking to faculty, learning more about what they research and how their research expertise might align with your interests. Now, typically junior year is when you secure that faculty member. So you ask a professor to be your mentor, kind of like asking somebody to the prom. They say yes, and then they're your mentor. And then your mentor helps you start doing a literature review. So whatever your research topic is, the first step is you have to know more about that topic. You have to see what have other academics and experts done already in this topic. So you start reading the literature. And then you're going to actually start doing your research, collecting the data, like I mentioned, working on your analysis, actually writing up everything that you've done into your thesis, and then ultimately defending your thesis, which is not nearly as scary as it sounds, right? This is where you answer questions with a little committee of faculty, typically. So this can look a little bit different for different colleges. The Walton College of Business and the College of Engineering, for instance, they do the bulk of the research senior year, while other colleges, Fulbright, COHEP, Bumpers, you typically do your research junior and senior year. So it just kind of depends on what you're majoring in. But this timeline is a good place to start. Okay, next slide. So what I've talked about today is, the biggest overview of research, and I hope that you recognize that, what your ultimate research project is going to be totally tailored to your discipline, to your interests. And we are here to help you do that. So the director of research innovation, that's me, I meet one-on-one with students all the time, and they say, Dr. Hodge, I'm kind of interested in these things. I'm not really sure. I don't know what to do next. And we talk about what to do next. I ask questions. I help students start thinking about what it is they're interested in and how they can pursue those things further. We do a lot of workshops. So we'll talk about these big questions. How do you find a topic? How to find a mentor? To help you get started, those very early steps, we give you very specific tips and details on how to do that and how to be really successful. Then once you are starting your research, we want to help you take it to the next level. So I offer a workshop on presenting research at a conference, where we're encouraging you to find an academic conference in your field and apply to present there. And that's what we do at that workshop. Research grants. We offer a whole slew of funding to support your research. Everything from stipend-based research grants that acts to financially support you for the time you spend doing your research, grants that can help you pay for expenses if you need to buy books, to buy supplies, materials for your lab. If you're doing a participant study and you need to compensate people who volunteer for your study, we offer grants for that. Conference grants, you present your research at a conference, we'll give you money to help you make that trip to the conference. And then if you need to travel for your research, this could be because you need to collect data, you need to go somewhere to interview people. We have short-term and extended research travel grants that can support you for both domestic and international travel. So I'll give you some examples. We funded 2 nursing students who went to a birthing center in Nashville. They were doing a research on patient data coming out of that birthing center. 2 chemical engineering students who visited a mine in Arizona. They were doing research on wastewater management in mines. An architecture student who went to Las Vegas, right? Tons of examples. You don't have to travel for your research, and you may not need to, but if you develop a project where traveling for your research is going to be needed or beneficial, then we have funding to help you do that. And then the research grant workshops teach you how to apply, give you tips on what we're looking for to be competitive, all that good stuff. So what I want to emphasize to you all about research is how formative it can be for you. It benefits you in a lot of different ways, helps you make strong connections to faculty, gives you great skills and experiences that are truly unique. It's not super common for undergraduate students to research at this very high level. So no matter what you want to do after you graduate from the University of Arkansas, having this research experience and then all the extra stuff that comes with it, having won competitive grants, presenting at a conference, winning awards, those are all things that are going to bolster your resume and help make you truly competitive for what you want to do after you graduate, springboard you into that future goal. Okay, next slide, I think, is about questions. So do you all have any questions for Dr. Pop or I about study abroad, research, anything else honors related?
We are ready to answer all of your questions. Yeah, at this point, you can just unmute and ask directly if you like, or if you're shy, you can put it in the chat and we'll talk it out. All right, I'm going to ask you a question if you're not going to ask us a question. Oh, here we have one. Does being a fellow change your research opportunities? Actually, it doesn't. We expect all of our honors students to work very carefully and closely with mentors on a research project. Now, if you're a fellow, you may be noticed first, but that doesn't mean that you as a fellow or a non-fellow can't get into the same lab or work with the same faculty member and have an awesome experience. Our job is to make that research experience great for all honors students, fellows and not. Anything to add there, Dr. Hodge?
The only thing I would add is that sometimes fellows are able to use part of their fellowship funding to help pay for research expenses.
Yes.
So if you have room in your financial package, so we offer grants to help you with this too, but you can also use sometimes some of your fellowship funding to go to conferences, to buy research supplies. Again, it depends on your financial package and how much money you have after paying for school, but that is also an opportunity.
Okay, I want a show of honest hands. Honest hands. How many of you, even though Dr. Hodge has told you you can do this, how many of you are still nervous about the research piece? Where's that hands? Where's the hands? Okay, that's good. Anybody who didn't put up their hand isn't telling the truth, right? You're all nervous. But look at Dr. Hodge. She is proof that it can be done. She has done this. So you're hearing right from the source that this is a very doable thing. University of Arkansas is chock full of great mentors that are here to help you, and we're here to help connect you to them. So don't let that research piece make you nervous about applying for the fellowship or being in the honors college. Because at the end, I can tell you, we graduate hundreds and hundreds of students from honors every year, and they've all done their research. And 4 years prior to that, they all thought they couldn't, but they all succeeded. So you can too. All
Yeah, and
right.
I'll add to that. When I was an honors student, I was a fellow many years ago. I was very nervous about the research. And the way I dealt with that was by starting very early. I mean, freshman year, I was in professors' offices, like, I need you to tell me what I'm supposed to do. But because I started so early, I created some great opportunities for myself. I had lots of time. I applied for multiple research grants, statewide research fellowships. I presented at a conference. So there's kind of that reaction to being nervous. The other reaction to being nervous is to like hide and to ignore the fact that you have to do research, which is where I come in. I start in my role in the honors college, I start, poking students, say, hey, don't forget, research is happening. If you're nervous, come meet with me. I can help you get over those nerves and figure out what exactly you're going to do. So Macy asks a great question. How do we find a mentor? The workshop I do multiple times a year on how to find a mentor talks about that exact thing, right? So I talk about approaching faculty you've had in class. I talk about how to figure out what faculty research by looking at their departmental directory, their profiles. I give you very specific advice on how to approach faculty, how to send them an email, what to include in that email. I tell you about how to find publications that the faculty have published so that you can look at them. And then when you talk to faculty, you can say, hey, I read your article, and they're super impressed. And then they want to work with you. So I give you very specific help on all of that. Qualifications for mentors, it can be any faculty member who is tenure track. Some departments allow you to also work with clinical faculty, instructors, and lecturers. It just depends. But there's lots and lots of people to choose from. And in most departments, you can work with somebody outside of your department. I'll use myself as an example again. I was music performance, but I actually did my research with a history professor who was an ethnomusicologist. That was the field I was really interested in, but for whatever reason, she worked in history. So I worked with her. So sometimes you can do some cool interdisciplinary stuff.
Right. And the question about how competitive it is for a mentor, again, it really depends on what you're doing. The science labs, for example, only have places for so many students, so they can be competitive. But most mentors, what the good news is, if you show up at a lab or if you show up in more of the social science or humanities areas like Chelsea and I are in, if the faculty member is full, they will often direct you to another faculty member. And that's something that's really, really important. Just because the first person you talk to turns you down doesn't mean it's a failure. They may be turning you down because they're too full, or they may say, I'm not the best person to work with you on that. This other person will do a much better job mentoring you in that area. And so you can be really successful. So don't be afraid to continue to knock on doors until you find that right spot. And we're here to help you along that way, like Dr. Hodge said.
And I'll also add that faculty can often mentor you even if their specific research area is not 100% aligned with what you want to do. I wrote my thesis on music used in evangelical revivals. My mentor, her area of expertise was music, Buddhist music in medieval Japan. So like could not be more different, but because she was just a renowned ethnomusicologist, she knew enough about the discipline to still guide me in what I was doing. So don't worry, you can often do just about anything that you want within reason and find a professor who is close enough to that interest to help you.
And you might even find a professor that's across a different college. Before I came to the Honors College, I was in Bumpers College. By trade, I'm an agricultural and natural resource economist. And I have been a faculty mentor to students not only in ag business, to lots of students in the business college, political science, sociology, environmental science. So you may even go outside of your own college and get somebody to direct. And depending on which college you're in, you might even be able to get somebody from industry or in the community to co-lead a project if you're doing something that's important to somebody outside of the university. So lots of opportunities. You just ask and we'll help you figure out whether it's possible or not.
So William has asked a question about music majors. Okay, I'm going to try and make this concise, but no matter your area of music, whether you're doing performance, education, history, theory, composition, you actually get to pick what you want your research to be in. So your research can be performance focused, music history, theory, composition, ethnomusicology, education. I think that's all. So you get to pick the specific kind of sub area of music that you want to do your thesis in. So that's how, even though I was a performance major, instead of doing an honors recital, I chose to write my thesis in ethnomusicology. I could have chosen composition or music theory. It just depends on what you're most interested in. So a performance focus, so you're going to do an honors recital. So your senior year, you give a recital, and typically it has some sort of research component to where every piece you choose for your recital links to each other in some way, and you write lengthy program notes so that you're explaining kind of this overarching theme of your research, of your recital. And then your committee of faculty, they attend your recital, and then they ask you questions like, why did you pick these pieces? How do they connect to each other, et cetera, et cetera. So that's very specific to music, but all of you can extrapolate from that the flexibility that comes from research, right? That no matter what you are studying, in most cases, you can really drill down and pick a very specific area that you are interested in. So even though I was a music performance major, and even though I still had to do a senior recital, I chose to do a thesis because I knew that's what would best benefit me for my goal to go to graduate school in an academic field.
We have a question about whether freshmen can get involved in faculty research, and the answer is yes. Again, it will depend on your major. A lot of the science labs and some of the engineering labs will allow students to start working and kind of getting their feet wet their freshman year. Some other majors, if you're in the business school, they might ask you to wait a little longer until you get some of the courses that will help guide your research under your belt. But if you're interested and you want to get started right away, it's never too soon to ask, get to know the faculty so that they can help you know when it's right for you to jump in and help with their research. All right, we have another, let's see, how many questions have I missed here? Questions about study abroad for engineering majors. Engineering really has done a fantastic job in, I guess, the last 5, 6, 7 years. You know, engineering students, you know that you have a very directed curriculum. And in some schools, it can be hard for students in engineering majors to study abroad because they have such a prescribed things they need to do in order to become engineers. But University of Arkansas in the College of Engineering has figured out how to send students abroad for, I think, almost every major, if not every major in the engineering college for at least a semester. So there are folks in the dean's office there that can guide you based on your major to say, here's a school that we can send you on an exchange program where you can go do what you need to do at this level of your program and not get behind in engineering. In addition to that, there's always opportunities to study abroad on a faculty-led program in the summer or in an intersession where you can get 3 or 6 credit hours that may not contribute directly to your engineering degree, but give you that broadened perspective and allow you to have an experience outside of your engineering program.
Mhm. And we do have summer U of A faculty-led programs for engineering. There's a civil engineering program in Rome, an engineering economics program in Rome, and then a biomedical engineering program in India.
And a
But again,
sustainability program in Belgium.
yes, to echo Dr. Pop, you don't have to do an engineering program, right? You could do a program that provides you electives, general education courses, core classes, language, so lots of choices.
Yeah, we're serious when we say there is a study abroad program regardless of your major. If you're willing to work with us and work with Study Abroad Office, we can find something for you.
And there was a question earlier about, is it good to go into your interview knowing fields you may want to conduct your research in? If you have some ideas, sure, and it comes up, absolutely bring those up. I wouldn't stress about it. As I said before, we are not expecting you to come to the university as researchers, right? But I imagine that all of you have interests. So it doesn't mean that you have to ultimately do research in those, but pull those interests out in your interview, and I think you'll be great.
That's right. But we want to encourage you, we want you to find the path that is right for you. For us, our motto is your honors. We want you to find that right path. So keep your ears and eyes open. I went into my undergraduate program 100% certain as to what I would be doing in this stage of my life. And I'm very far away from what that was. And it's because I kept my mind open and I let experience help draw me to which was best for me. So don't panic if you get into a program and after your first semester you say, oh my gosh, this wasn't the major for me. It's okay. We're here to help you find that path that's for you. So you talk to your parents, you talk to your family, you talk to your academic advisors, and you talk to us. And that's what college is all about, finding that path that's right for you. Okay, so the Honors Passport program that Chelsea just answered to, is it only over the summer? No, we have offered them in January intersession. It all depends on where we're going and when we think would be the best time for the faculty to go, as well as to experience that part of the world. But the Japan program will be in the summer, I believe, May, late May next year. And that will be a fantastic program. We haven't had a dud yet, I don't think, Chelsea, do you? They're great programs and they're very popular. So we encourage you to come by and we'll be happy to tell you about them. But again, we want you to find the right program for you. Lots and lots of opportunities to study abroad.
And honors passport programs are always 2 weeks, so they're on the shorter side, but they pack a ton into those 2 weeks, so you do a whole lot. But they're great options for students who maybe don't want to or can't be gone for a really long time, but to still have a really meaningful international experience.
That's right. So especially when we do them in the May intersession time, that allows you to get home, get back to work, get a job, get an internship, do whatever you need to be doing for that summer experience. So there really is no major on our campus that we can't find a viable study abroad program. Now, I will tell you, and Dr. Hodge knows this has been my goal since I've come over to the Honors College. We usually used to show a map of where students have studied abroad. And we have sent students on study abroad funding to every continent on this planet except Antarctica. And I am still waiting for that student to do it. We have found very good, safe, viable programs. And in fact, if COVID didn't happen, I think we'd have one that would be going this year. I'm not so sure she's going. But you can go anywhere. That's the beauty of it, anywhere, depending on your major. So if you're interested in geology or environmental science or biology, that may be the program for you. Otherwise, we'll help find you one. We'll put you on other continents too, I promise. But I am definitely looking to help somebody get to Antarctica.
Yes, the program she's talking about is a semester-long program in Chile, and then you actually take a ship with your program down to Antarctica for, I think, like 10 days. So we're ready. We want to send somebody to Antarctica.
Right. I've actually been, because I was in Chile and did that trip. I would have loved to have stayed longer, but how cool would it be to be the first student from University of Arkansas to study in Antarctica, right? Yes, it was cold. I went in the summertime, and things are flipped. So the further south we went in Chile down there, it was cold. But to be on a big freighter with penguins, who can beat that? Okay. I mean, these are experiences I'll never forget. So wherever you go to study abroad, you will have experiences you never forget. We hope your research experience will be something positive you never forget. That's what we're looking to do, is give you lifelong good memories that help you along your career path. We do a lot of things really, really well at the university. The one thing none of us have really mastered yet is reading your minds. So you come and talk to us and tell us what your interests are, and we're here to try to help find that right fit for you. So as long as you come talk to us, we're ready to try to help. Okay. What other questions? Everybody ready for their interviews? The last thing I'll say is don't sweat it. We are so impressed to have you interview with us. It's a conversation. Okay. It's not a grill. We're not setting out to make you feel bad. It's a conversation. We want you to feel comfortable and talk with us. I promise it's all going to be great. When you say, Dr. Hodge, you've been through it?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I was answering a question and only half listening. I did my interview over 10 years ago. I still remember a lot of things about it, some questions I was asked. So it is nervous. I was nervous for sure. But as we say on our website, like those faculty, they want to get to know you. They just want to learn more about you, and your interests are not out to get you at all. I had a very positive interview experience, and I hope that you will too.
I'm sure you will. I can tell you that when you leave the room, we sit back and say, wow, can you believe that guy? Can you believe that lady? They are amazing. You're doing great stuff. And we want to hear the good things that you've done, and just feel comfortable, because, you're interviewing us as much as we're interviewing you. So come prepared with questions you want to ask us about U of A, about the fellowship program. We're here to answer for you. Okay. Any last questions for us?
So this was in the PowerPoint, but I'm gonna put it in the chat as well. Mine and Dr. Pop's email addresses. And that way, if you have more questions about research, study abroad, you're welcome to email either one of us.
Right. And even though the fellowship interviews are virtual, we do hope that we'll all be back to campus in the fall. And you will be able to find Dr. Hodge and me in Gearhart Hall. And we love it when people stop by. So don't be strangers. Come introduce yourselves. We want to get to know you. And we have 2 kitchens in the building. If you're a coffee or a tea drinker, we're ready. We even have a refrigerator, what has its own ice maker. So we're there to accommodate, just to sit down and chat, see how things are going at U of A. Make yourself at home, because the Honors College will be your home as well. All right. What do you think, Dr. Hodge? Is everybody hungry? It sounds like ready to going to get some dinner now. Yeah, I see some shaking heads. Me too. I can hear my dog scraping on the door. I think she's ready for her dinner too. So nice talking with all of you tonight. Good luck Monday. It's going to go well. You are all amazing to be part of this process. We look forward to having you at University of Arkansas, and hope we can help you with study abroad and research experiences. All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.